righty, everyone. Welcome to what is our pilot episode of ReEducation Camp. My name is Colin Miller, being joined alongside by the one and only Ms. Karen O'Toole of the O'Toole clan, who are a notorious group of Irish Catholic white supremacists in the in the Pennsylvania area. Is that accurate, Karen? I mean, you guys probably go to the Latin Mass and all that, right?
Yeah, that sounds about right. Although I feel like Irish people aren't your like stereotypical Anglo-Saxons. Like I feel like there's not a lot of white supremacist Irish people. Right? You're Irish, like you get it. You're Colin.
Yeah.
Yeah. We're not Irish people aren't we're not very aggressive, and we're really not trying to rule the world. We're just here for a good time. When
It's
you
all the
agree with that?
carbohydrates. That's what it is. It really kills our motivation between the potatoes and the Guinness, which, I love all of that stuff. So I think that's a big part of the reason why, honestly.
Yeah, it's probably just the alcoholism, which fun fact, I actually don't drink and I've never been drunk. So there you go for stereotypes. I'm really wondering too, like we just passed the holiday, but St. Patrick's Day, like we need, as Irish people, I think do you notice that the Irish people do not mind being stereotyped or cultural appropriation of St. Patrick's Day? Like we're the coolest group of people. Like we love that everybody wants to be part of our culture. We don't squash people for wanting to be. And when people call us drunks, we like give them a cheers. It's not a big deal. We're not
Yeah, it is.
like who
It's,
cares?
it's a
Let's have
very
some fun.
laid back group for sure. A very inclusive group, if you will, because the old saying
Yeah.
is everybody's Irish on St. Patrick's Day.
Yeah, we
So
want you
we're
to
just
be
like,
included and welcomed into the family of Irish people. Yeah, yeah. And we hate the colonial English too. We're with you. We hate those
yeah,
damn
we're
colonialists. Get them. So, down with the monarchy. So, yeah, I don't know. I think the Irish are probably like the funnest, coolest, best people on the face of the planet. Like let's be real.
have you ever been there to Ireland? I imagine you have.
No, I haven't. It's on my list of places to go. We were very seriously considering a trip in 2020. But obviously that did not happen. And like my husband and I were like, we're gonna go in May. That's our anniversary month. It seemed like a good month to go. It's not too hot, not too cold. Not that Ireland gets hot, but like it just didn't seem like it seemed like a good, not crazy busy time to go and not too cold. But then 2020 happened. So yeah, I definitely like to go. I'm just a little concerned about the food because I feel like we don't have any good food. We just have alcohol. Like we
Is
just
bangers and mash Irish?
it sounds like it, but it's probably really Scottish. It's probably not even really Irish food. And even potatoes are really from like Ecuador, like from the Andes Mountains.
I just find it funny that you've been to Taiwan, but you haven't been to Ireland.
I've been to Ukraine and Taiwan, Costa Rica, but I've never been to Ireland. The only time I've been to Europe um was only Ukraine. Is Ukraine part of
Unbelievable.
it's considered Europe, right?
Yes, Ukraine is considered Europe, and I believe it is also our nation's capital at this point. I mean, the
All
big
hail
move is to
Zelensky and
go
she.
over to you. I mean, that's almost like the new Hollywood in a sense. That's the big move. Like everything's going to be done. Everything's moving to the Ukraine now.
Yeah, Orlando Bloom was just there this past week, and Sean Penn has brought over his Academy Award and gave it to Zelensky. Can you imagine? I mean, it's just wild. Can you imagine? Like, wasn't De Gaulle the leader? He was like the general during of the French during World War II. Can you imagine one of the actors of the day, like Humphrey Bogart, flying over and being like, here's my Oscar. I know that Hitler just invaded your country and just seized all of France, and you surrendered, but I guess they surrendered, so they didn't deserve. That's the difference. they didn't deserve an Oscar because they surrendered. So that's what the problem is. He's putting on such a good performance that's why he deserves an Oscar. Don't you understand this, Collin? Come on.
Well, he is an actor. I mean, he literally played the president of the Ukraine on a soap opera or something. Am I correct?
Yes, on a comedy show. It was a comedy show.
And I keep seeing that clip going around. It's like a weird music video of him in this like gimp costume out of Pulp Fiction, and he's doing this weird dance with this techno music. What's going on over there? What's the
why is this person in charge of our entire budget?
Was this guy democratically elected? I've got my suspicions here.
Yeah, and there's also a video of him playing the piano like with his genitals, but it's a fake video. It's not like he's actually playing, like it's set up to make him appear like he is.
I was gonna say, this guy's more talented than I thought. President Zelensky is a man of many talents.
Yeah, like
obviously.
You said, though. Yeah, so Orlando Bloom was just there, Angelina Jolie, Sean Penn. I'm trying to remember. Was there anybody else that was over there? Lady Gaga.
I think you named most of the heavy hitters.
Yeah, the heavy hitters. Can you imagine if you're like a B-list celebrity, like you're like Meghan Markle 7 years ago before she hooked up with Harry? Like Meghan Markle would have totally gone to Kyiv, and people would have been like, who's there? We don't even like you just got to imagine there's some agents right now that are talking to their, maybe they're celebrity, maybe they've have had a hit and their heydays kind of come and gone. You gotta imagine, like, trying to think of some celebrities like that, like Jennifer Lawrence. I feel like she was the it girl, just kind of not. It's like, listen, Jennifer, I have an idea. We got a plane booked tomorrow. You're going to go to Kyiv. You're going to take some photos. You're going to do a walkabout. Make sure your hair is done. You're going to be with Zelensky. Like, envision this, okay? We're going to have you crying. We're going to have flowers. You're going to lay the flowers. You're going to maybe get a little blood on your face, but it's going to bring back your career. And that's really what matters here. And an agent is having that conversation right now.
And if they're not, they should be.
Yes.
Because this, like I said, this is the move now. I mean, I think that Joe Rogan should have seriously considered opening up this new comedy club of his in Kyiv instead of Austin. I mean, Austin's on the decline. Kyiv is on the upswing here. I mean, this is where all the money's being pumped into. This is where the Federal Reserve fiat cash is being funneled to. So
that's a good point. That's a good point too. I remember a few years ago, like 10 years ago, I should say. Remember when Libya, when they killed Gaddafi and overthrew his regime in Libya? And I remember a comment I read, because instead of doing anything productive with my life, I enjoy reading people's comments online, but sometimes they're enlightening. And this contractor wrote about how people were going to he was excited about the opportunity because military contractors were going to be able to go into Libya and make a whole bunch of money. So you're kind of onto something, that there probably are people chomping on the bit, some vultures sitting there ready, some hyenas getting ready to jump in to make the pounce and make a buck, and because they see where the money's going.
And not only the defense contractors, but you hear BlackRock talking about how this is going to be great because they're going to be the main ones to kind of rebuild and clean things up there, once everything is all said and done. But I mean, all of this is truly dependent upon whether or not we have a little nuclear exchange, shall we say, because I don't think that the average Joe realizes just how close we are to that becoming a reality. I know that you and I have talked about this before privately. I mean, the doomsday clock now is the closest it has ever been to a nuclear war. We're 90 seconds to midnight now. And
90 seconds. Is that true? Is it
yeah,
really?
we're 90 seconds to midnight, and unless that changed, but I remember last
They
month
just recently did it, right?
yeah,
Okay.
yeah, they recently moved it to 90 seconds to midnight.
I think I knew that it moved, but hearing that it's 90 seconds is it's a little disturbing because it sounds like hyperbole. It sounds like it's just an extreme. But if you really take a moment to consider it, 90 seconds, everything could change. And I sometimes think to myself, you could wake up any day, or you could just be going about your business and the whole world could change. I think a lot of people can remember 9/11, how things felt on that day. Now imagine a nuclear bomb. I mean, it's really, it's like I said, it sounds alarmist, but it really could happen. It's not crazy.
I was laughing earlier because I was picturing myself in seventh grade English class when this all happened. And I remember there was one particular girl in class who was just like, we had the television on in the classroom, and we were, I don't know what news network we had on, but we were watching the events unfold. And this one girl in class was just not paying attention whatsoever. And I still have this PTSD memory of the very aggressive English teacher just screaming in her face, if you're not interested, then you better get interested. And that's the first thing I think of when somebody
Now,
brings up
actually,
where you
I'm
were on
curious
9/11.
about this because I was homeschooled that year and I wasn't in a classroom setting. So I'd actually love to hear. I know this is kind of a strange turn of events for our conversation, but what did happen that day? What happened, and what did you understand was what did you comprehend?
I mean, I knew that it was a terrorist attack. I mean, I think that we were all aware of that. I just remember, again, this was in the morning. I was in English class. Eventually, they brought us all to the cafeteria. And again, this was middle school. I was in the seventh grade, so they brought us
Yeah.
all to the
Yeah.
cafeteria. I think actually we went to a recess
What
outside.
school was this? Because you were in like a Catholic school,
Oh
or
yeah, yeah, yeah. This was Catholic school. They brought us outside for like a regular recess, and then I guess somebody was like, "Huh, maybe this isn't such a hot idea to have all the kids outside right now." So they brought us into the
yeah,
cafeteria, and then
let's get nuked inside.
and
That's gonna
then
make a
and
big
then we were
difference.
ultimately dismissed. But that's truly my main memory from that morning was the English teacher getting pissed off at this girl who was not paying attention to what was going on the TV screen.
Had you ever been to Manhattan before then?
Was I ever? I think I was once to visit my cousin who was living in New York City at the time. Um, you know what? This might have even been post 9/11. I don't know, Karen. You're asking me. I mean, I don't
No,
remember.
that's okay. That's okay. I just was kind of curious. And so when the teacher decided to bring the television in, did you remember making any declaration of what you were watching? Just like, hey guys, usually they bring it in. It's Bill Nye the Science
Well,
Guy. It might be the donut man if you're at a Catholic school. Like, here's the donut man. He's going to teach you about creation. And
you see, even as a little 11 or 12-year-old child, I knew that jet fuel did not melt steel beams. So right off the bat, I was like, "Hey, guys, let's pump the brakes for a second. Don't you see what's going on here?
yeah.
Have you ever read Mr. D? Mr. D was the teacher. Have you ever read Operation Northwoods, Mr. D? The plan for us to stage events and make it look like the Cubans were staging acts of terror as a pretext to go to war."
Yeah, you're like, do you personally know Donald Rumsfeld? Do you know
Yeah, do you
what
know?
Dick Cheney is capable of, Mr. D? They're just like, we need to go invade these people right now. Put a boot in there. Remember the
Oh, the Toby Keith song. which actually has a really excellent guitar solo. It's actually like one of the best country, like modern pop country guitar solos.
We'll put a boot in their mouth because it's the American way.
Oh yeah,
Or
everybody
something like
was
that. Yeah,
everybody
we were
was like
gung
Mr.
ho.
America after that happened. Every single house on the corner had an American flag outside.
Yeah, yeah. Which I don't know if you just saw, that kind of leads us to today, that there was just a study released that patriotism and traditional, quote unquote, traditional American values have been completely like they're at an all-time low right now. So maybe we need a little, little stir
Well,
up, little
I
reason
mean,
to
not
bring
only
us
that, I mean,
together.
I think that is a sign of white supremacy, showing pride in one's nation, especially if you're a coffee drinker as well, too. I mentioned the Latin Mass earlier. These are all
Oh,
telltale signs.
you're right. Coffee drinker. If you share GIFs or GIFs of people of a person of color and you happen to be of white skin, that's
That's digital
unacceptable.
blackface, they call it.
Yes, digital blackface. Drinking coffee promotes colonialism. Can we go back to, again, we established we are Irish. We did not own slaves, and we don't really like the English imperialists either. So we're on the same page. Leave my coffee alone. Let me share some gifs of some black leprechauns drinking beer. Okay. Like that's like we're family. We're all Irish on St. Patrick's Day.
Right. Everybody.
Everybody, all of
Everybody
us.
is welcome to break bread at our table and drink some ale and exchange stories.
Yeah, well, as you were saying about that, as we were talking about the lapse in traditional values, I think some of it stems from the fact that in the internet age, we are all more well aware. I think we have a little bit more self-awareness about our country, and that might be the reason why patriotism has waned. Uh, like you said, like on right after 9/11, everybody had a flag. Everybody was really excited about, not excited, sorry, not excited, that's the wrong word. I apologize. Everybody felt a collective sense of patriotism, Americana, Americanism, whatever you want to call it, because we felt attacked. We felt something about our nation was attacked that day. But as time has come and gone, I think a lot of people on the right, and maybe even because I think traditionally the right was more patriotic, more nationalistic, but you've seen a lot of people on the right and a lot of people that were already on that way, already there on the left, have kind of had some questions about 9/11, have had some questions about the war on terror. And like I said, I think we're starting to have a little bit more self-awareness. And I think that's why we might see a little bit of a drop of patriotism. Because even if you supported Donald Trump and you're America first, I think you're like American people first, not necessarily Nancy Pelosi and Kevin McCarthy first, if that makes sense to you. I don't know. Do you understand what I'm saying about that?
Well, yeah, it all boils down to these politicians. They're all part of, see, we don't even really have a dual party system, honestly. We have a one party system, it's the uniparty. And these people are not public servants. I mean, how could you pay? Would you spend $1 million on a job that only pays 100 grand?
Yeah.
No. Like, how
Yeah.
how are these people rich? How is Joe Biden's
That's such a good
family
point. That's such a good point.
multi-millionaires? I mean, but everybody seems to be okay with it, right? It's always this general attitude of, oh well, what are you gonna do? This is how it is. That's my favorite, when people tell me, well, yeah, they all do it. This is how it is, you know. And when you realize, when you're somebody like me who realizes the apathy of the general public, you know, I always say to you, like, when I drive past the grocery store, when I drive past Publix, I look inside. I often think to myself, what is the percentage of people in there who know that the Restrict Act is about to
Hmm.
pass in the Senate? and this is
Yeah.
basically a more severe Patriot Act that's
Hmm.
gonna put you in jail for 20 years for using a VPN and or engaging in wrong speak on the internet. What's the real percentage in there that is even mildly
Yeah. And
cogniscient? What's the
severely
word?
enhance and give blanket authority for the feds to monitor and control our transactions. So, but buying and selling, they said they're acting like it's if we're banking with Russia that we're sending transactions, but that's not what the actual law is saying it does. It doesn't say that it can't stop domestic transactions as well. It's setting it up that it's if you're sending something to Iran or to Russia or receiving from Russia or Iran, and like you said, most people we don't even know what in the world is going on. And of course, we're not going to find out on the news. For the love of God, they're going to be like, "Oh no, Kevin McCarthy had a hangnail today." And so we got to talk about that, and like something just completely absurd is going to be on, and there's no actual coverage. But you were saying VPNs are also, I wasn't aware that the VPNs are outlawed, I guess, is what's going down.
Yeah, and one thing I wanted to make mention. Now, as of this recording, nothing has passed yet, but
Yes,
essentially
nothing
there are
has
two
passed. Yes.
bills. There's one
Yes.
in the House and there's one in the Senate. The Senate one, that's the bad one that has all of these draconian measures that we're speaking of right now. And yeah, my understanding is that it would make using a VPN illegal because I guess, the feds need to know uh, exactly what you're browsing, what you're looking at online. I mean, I always assumed that they did anyway, even with a VPN. But the fact that they want to outlaw them now makes me think like, okay, maybe this thing actually is doing something that I have on
Yeah.
in the
Yeah.
background, you know. But yeah, this would make it illegal to use a VPN, illegal to engage in wrong speak against whatever the mainstream narrative is at the time. And they can come after you. They can fine you $1 million. They could seize your property. And this is Shadow the cat, by the way. She's
Our
going to be
mascot.
a very she's going to be a focal point of our humble little podcast here. She
Yeah,
kind of rules the roost around here.
you'll be lucky if she isn't taken away when you're sent to the re-education camp. She'll be
Oh, I know.
sweet.
It'll be just like in China. If you saw the photos on Twitter of they would put all the cats in these bags and have them on the streets during the lockdowns. They would take your pets away from you.
Why in the world? Because they thought the pets were going to get out and go to other people.
I don't know what their rationale was.
Yeah.
I mean, we know that pets are bad for our carbon footprint, so that's really going to be what they're going to be pushing next. If you have a dog or a cat, then you are a eco terrorist.
How dare you, Shadow? How dare you?
And you're probably going to hear the deep
The
purring
purring.
coming through the microphone. It's very soothing. So
Well, now that we're going to publish this, the feds are going to know how important Shadow is to you, and they're going to come seize her because of your attachment. They're going to threaten Shadow.
well, I mean, just the name of this podcast in general. I mean, re-education camp. Really, we named it this because we know where we're ultimately going to be sent.
Yeah, we want to be there first, so we'll be there first to explain to the veteran. We'll be the veterans. So it's like, okay, here's the deal. You're going to make sure that you get to the back of the line because all the soup, all of the vegetables are going to fall to the bottom. You don't want to go to the top because it'll all be the liquid. So you want to be at the back of the line. You want to save some crackers, put them in, put them in your bra or something. But no, like you said, and the interesting thing about like the Restrict Act is that I feel like these acts come out of nowhere. Like, who wrote this act? And then all of a sudden it's like, okay, this is what we're working on over here. It's like, hey, we'd like affordable health care. We would like you to get inflation under lock and key. We would like, our bridges to not collapse. And they're like, you know what you guys really need You need to shut down the VPNs. We need to control your transactions. And yeah, if you write anything we don't like on Facebook, we're coming for you. You know what I'm saying? Like, I just don't understand like where I feel like these acts come out of left field sometimes, but I guess they're on the envelope that this act is coming in is that it's really just to attack TikTok, correct? Like it's just really, we're just trying to say this is TikTok that we're trying to protect. Remember how TikTok, you know, the thing your kids doing the little things at Walmart too? You know, and that's what they tell us. They're like, okay, this is what it's about. But you know, it's like the Patriot Act all over again. Like,
I
oh
think that
yeah,
the
this is
House bill is actually about TikTok,
okay.
about
That one's actually about okay. Restrict is just literally out of nowhere.
yeah, the Restrict Act, they say it's about TikTok. I didn't see the words TikTok written anywhere in the bill. The whole bill is basically just like, yeah, this is the final nail in the coffin for all of you peasants. So, you know, don't think that you're getting at it. Yeah, the bill doesn't even mention TikTok. The House bill does, and you know, quite frankly, too, I'm not even in favor of banning it because what is it doing that Facebook isn't already doing? It's
Yeah.
like, okay, so you know, the Chinese have all of our information. Mark Zuckerberg has all of our information. It's almost like the Western imperialists are like, oh no, China doesn't get access to. Only
No,
we are
you're
allowed to
right.
spy on our
Yeah.
citizens. You don't get to do that.
Yeah. The
Don't.
tech oligarchs are like, wait. These are our peasants, not yours. Okay.
Yeah,
So you
hands
need to
off.
go back. Yeah, hands off. This is American peasants, and we get all their data collection. But also too, it's like with the Restrict Act, it's like who even knows. It's kind of crazy that they even call it that, restrict. Like we're putting more restrictions on you. Like
Yeah,
you're you know what
at least the Patriot Act was like, yeah, it's the Patriot
I
Act. You're a
mean?
patriot, aren't you? You've got your
Yeah.
American flag on the front porch.
Yeah,
You've
like
got Old
they
Glory
could call
waving.
it like the Privacy Act or something. Like we're giving you more privacy. They're like, nah, we're just gonna throw it out there, all capital letters, restrict.
Yeah,
Here you go,
it's
folks.
yeah, it's to
Like,
restrict you. The
so,
mask is off. We're telling you what we're doing now. You obviously don't care because I mean, you just want to get cheap credit and go on a cruise once a year. Let's face it, that's really that's all your average American truly cares
yeah,
about. I mean, most people really don't value their freedoms all that much. You
yeah.
know,
They're like Dairy Queen's still open. Shut your mouths, okay?
right,
Restrict. No,
right.
you can imagine like some CIA, like deep state warrior who's writing it. It's like, what should we call it? Restrict. Those idiots won't even know. They won't pay no attention.
And
And
are
then
they
they're like,
wrong?
yeah, are they? Good point. Are they wrong? Exactly. It's like, don't worry, we've already stolen their right to vote. They can't do anything about it. And then it's like that trick. You ever seen that picture of like Ronald Reagan and like the other club of 70 or whatever, and they're like laughing? Like that's what it is.
Yeah.
We'll call it the Restrict Act and they won't even care. We already took their right to vote. No biggie. And I mean, that's kind of where we're at. Like, can you disagree? Like you said, like how many people even know that that's going on? And these, a lot of times I argue that because of working in the media and working in the news, like the other day we had this terrible massacre that happened in Nashville, and they released this body cam footage. And I really thought to myself, like, the media should take it upon themselves. I think that, yes, the Nashville police should release that footage. But you would think that the media would collectively say, hey, let's maybe not put this out on television for children to see. Like maybe let's not put this on Twitter and Facebook and TikTok and Instagram and Truth Social, and like let's collectively say that this is very alarming footage, and maybe not put it out there for the public to see. And of course they didn't at all. They're like, we need our clicks, we need our $10 per impression, so we got to have the footage too. We need the video of the trans child dying, or trans woman, or trans man. I don't know. But I usually tell people that they shouldn't really consume too much news. Most of the news, if you're watching Fox News, if you're watching MSNBC, or if you're watching CNN, be prepared to be angry, to be confused, and be prepared to be lied to, and to really feel a sense of hopelessness. You watch so much of this news, and it's created and it's made specifically to get you angry and frustrated and feel as if you have no control and no hope. That said, every once in a blue moon, or once a month or twice a month, there are these topics that people are not talking about, like the Restrict Act, where people should know what's going on. Like, they should be part. What I'm saying is, there's good information, but 90% of the news is just dross, and you don't need it. You don't need to listen to it. You don't need to consume it. It's a total waste of your time. It's created to get you angry. It's created to just be consumed. But stuff like the Restrict Act, no, you should be calling your congressman or calling your senator's office and saying, yeah, no, don't vote for that. That's it sounds so antiquated, but that literally is all we can do.
Well, there's 2 points that I want to make out of everything that you were just
My
eloquently
rant.
laying out there. Number one, the thing that horrified me the most about the video is that those cops did not take the time to use hand sanitizer like the Uvalde cops did. The Uvalde cops, their priority was obviously, I mean, we're in the midst of a pandemic here, people.
Yeah.
So you could have at least taken the time
They
to
were
use the hand
definitely
sanitizer.
more. Can we give them a little bit of credit for being very responsible? Like, I feel like Dr. Fauci would have given an okay to that. He would have given a thumbs up. Yeah, I agree. Good point.
In all seriousness, though, when I was watching that footage, I was like, man, God bless these guys, because I couldn't imagine running towards gunfire like that and having
No.
to do that job. But to what you were saying, yeah, I mean, putting this video out there, it's more so to get that click money,
Yeah.
and does it really do? I mean, a lot of people will say, well, we do have the right, the public has the right to see it, but on the other hand, it is really to spark outrage, which is one of the uh, main attributes of our corporate media, which, by the way, I don't think that people listen. They call it the dinosaur media for a reason, because this is a very antiquated, some might say, dying form of news. But I think that we really underestimate just the sheer amount of our population that still, despite all the lies, despite all the BS, they still go to this as their source of most news and most information.
Yeah. And well, CNN just in March lost 61% of their viewership. I'm sure that they have a lot of I'm sure on social media and stuff, and on YouTube they have a little bit better of a viewer base, but people actually consuming because people watching television are older. Why is Fox News is always gloating? They have the highest ratings, but they also have people that are dying that are watching it. And I hate to say it, like, put it out like that, but it's like, okay, because your demographics are probably much older. Not to say they don't have younger demographics as well, but I'm just saying that people aren't really watching television or aren't consuming their media in that form. But like you said, the one concern I do have, sorry, I'm just so popular. It's my brother, whose name is Patrick. Because we're Irish.
Just give out all your family's personal information.
Yeah,
why
I
don't you?
Like, yeah, you just come and find us. We don't care. Please put us out of our misery. Get us before we're in the gulag. But what I was so rudely interrupted. I'm trying to remember. I will make sure that he has a thorough lashing later. But sorry, I was saying
flogging.
About with flogging.
That would be the
sounds
Irish
a lot
term,
more
I think.
Irish term. Yeah. It turns out that's not Irish at all. We just like stole it from somebody else. We were too lazy to come up with a word.
Well, first of all, nobody
I
should
don't
be
know.
listening to this for like any sort of accurate
Yeah, don't take
information.
us
Number
seriously.
one.
Yeah, we don't. Although I was accurate about 61% of CNN viewers. But what I was going to say is, I do sometimes get concerned that people are going to sources that are so either polarizing or so skewed towards their own viewpoint. I think it's really important. Like there's sometimes, like when Tucker Carlson brought out the January 6th footage, I decided to watch a little bit of Jake Tapper's kind of reply to it. Jake Tapper has a show on CNN. I don't remember Rachel Maddow, but I think I watched a little bit of MSNBC too. And I think that's important. Like you sometimes need to actively go and seek out information that doesn't align with what your, I guess, just your default reactions would be. So, for instance, when Tucker Carlson released that footage, Jake Tapper said, wait a minute, Kevin McCarthy gave all this footage, 40,000 hours to one person whose father was a CIA agent. He didn't say that. I said that. But we might
Tucker?
need to look at that. I'm pretty sure. Yeah, wasn't Tucker's dad in the CIA?
I know that Hannity has CIA connections. I mean, he even wears a CIA pin on the air, I believe,
Are you serious? I
on
thought it
his
was just like an
jacket.
American dad. Yeah, let me double
I mean,
check.
you could be right
I
about
don't want to
Tucker.
be okay. So Tucker Carlson's father, Richard Dick Carlson, is an important journalist and high state official who was appointed by Ronald Reagan as the director of the U.S. Information Agency, which I've never even heard of, and it might not exist anymore. The body that oversees government funded media, including Radio Free Europe and Radio Liberty, Radio and TV Marty, and The Voice of America, of which Dick was also the director. USIA has since been replaced by the U.S. Agency for Global Media. Sounds like U.S. Agency for Propaganda. Together, these outlets are part of what the New York Times called a worldwide propaganda network built by the CIA. Their goal is to bombard enemy countries with regime change propaganda. Until the 1970s, Radio Free Europe, Radio Liberty was directly funded by the CIA. So I'm going to go back to my earlier statement and say that, yeah, I would say Tucker Carlson's dad was in some way kind of like a government agent for this propaganda arm. So
Tucker Carlson's father was a globalist and part of the deep state, and Tucker is obviously controlled opposition. Is that what you're trying to say in a nutshell?
I'm not trying to say like, Tucker, you're fine to come on the show and have a conversation with us. I like if we feel him out in person.
I think he
You
seems
know
like
what
a
I
nice,
mean?
like
I like when
a
he yeah,
legitimately
when he
down to
makes that
earth.
face.
I I like the confused. That's really his signature.
That
The
really
confused
is.
face.
Yeah, I just I'm not trashing Tucker Carlson. I don't want you to think that. I just think it's important to know somebody's background, right? So we can have just an honest conversation. I'm not really against talking to anyone at any point in time. I love conversation, and I'm not trying to say he's controlled opposition, just some, considerations to
Well,
make
I will
for the
say
day.
this. I always did find it a bit odd that they allowed him to have all of these anti-war voices, like he'll have Jimmy Dore on his show, and just Jimmy will go off on the military industrial complex, and they allow him to have voices of dissent against the regime, so shall we say.
To an extreme it's
Yeah, to an extreme
as
level.
you're saying that, I too was pondering that recently, that like you said, like Hannity is a little bit more pro-war. I have no idea what Laura Ingraham has said, and Jesse on the water, or whatever hell's little, he's like Jesse on the waters. Jesse doesn't seem, he seems like he's just having fun. Like he doesn't seem like he gets it. Jesse gets it. Jesse's like, I'm just up here having a good time. I got a good looking chick, like no biggie. Like he
Probably
doesn't
making a
care.
decent buck too.
Oh, he's making a killer buck. Okay. Jesse's also welcome to come on the show. But
We'll talk
but
to anybody.
Tucker, sorry, I'm not dying. I just getting some, I tried to have some tea with honey. I don't know what the heck
Well, I do worry about that with you, the dying part,
Yeah,
you know.
it's not. It's just something. It's a little in my throat, you know. But Jesse, not Jesse, Tucker. Yeah, they give him a lot. They give him a long leash. Like he doesn't. He seems almost like the black sheep of Fox News, right? Not that I really watch Fox News a lot, to be completely honest. But
Most corporate
right?
media is pretty much interchangeable, but
Yes, true.
the lone mainstream media voice, the most highest rated corporate media talking head, if you want to call him that, is Tucker Carlson. And when we
Yeah.
say that he takes things to an extreme level, I mean this goes beyond the whole traditional politics is pro wrestling. Oh, Joe Biden, did you see the stupid thing that he said today? Ha ha. No, this is he's having Cy Hirsch, the journalist who exposed the My Lai massacre. You know, he recently exposed how the Nord Stream pipeline we we destroyed that essentially. I mean, Tucker's having guys like him on
He's
talk
he's
about this in
he's dropping
detail.
bombs. He's dropping bombs.
Yeah,
Not
this isn't
literally, but you know what I
just, you
mean.
know, like I said, the political pro wrestling BS, you know, Fox News versus CNN. I mean, that they're all in this together. This is just a big game to all these
Yeah,
psychopaths. But
yeah.
it blows my mind that they allow him to have the people on and to say the things that he says. I mean, is it just because, well, his ratings are good, so that they haven't allowed people. I mean, I'm sure Jesse Ventura's ratings would have been good if he would have got that MSNBC show, but
Yeah.
he said that he was against the Iraq war at the time, so they bought out his contract and had him sit at home.
Yeah. It'd be interesting to go back and watch the old Tucker Carlson footage too, because like you said, he was on MSNBC back in the day when MSNBC was finding its way. I think he was on PBS for a little while, or he was on some. I remember I remember flicking through the television and trying to get to CNBC because they would play Conan O'Brien repeats that I wouldn't stay up for the night before. So I would watch them at like 5 o'clock on, and I'd flick by an MSNBC and I'd see like Tucker Carlson with his bow tie. Like that's what and then also back in the day, I took myself like way more seriously and I like went through that whole at a very young age, I went through like that political phase where I was like, politics are so important. And now, like, obviously, we're having a conversation about politics in a sense, but knowing it's completely meaningless in the grand scheme of things. You know what I'm saying? Like, you know, it will matter in a couple of years when they come in and they do drag us to the re-education camp. But at the end of the day, there's more important eternal truths that are a lot more meaningful. And I think we both have sight of that. But anyway, so I would watch uh CNBC and I'd see Tucker in his little bow tie when MSNBC was like finding its way. And we should point out that the M in MSNBC stands for Microsoft. I don't know if you remember that. That like
Okay.
MSN, remember it was Microsoft, and then there was MSN.com, which was also Microsoft's website, and then MSNBC was a Microsoft NBC. I'm like 100% sure that's true. Now I'm like nervous that
Are you
I'm going to
saying
be
that Bill
wrong, but
Gates is involved somehow?
I don't know if he really is, but I think at some point in time he was. Um let me see. Let me see what George Soros's Wikipedia says about this. They probably changed it.
And by the way, while you're looking that up, I think that if you want to get the purest sense of who Tucker Carlson actually is as a person, go on YouTube and look for Joey Boots meets Tucker Carlson. Now,
Okay.
Joey Boots was a whack packer from the Howard Stern show who
Okay.
happened to stumble upon Tucker Carlson while he was fly fishing in Central Park in New York City. And they have a
Okay.
very down to earth conversation,
Conversation. Yeah.
and it's just a cool video, especially if you're a old time
Okay.
Stern
I'm
fan.
sorry.
But anyhow, I
I didn't
digress.
realize you were Tucker. We'll get to that, but I just want to say MSNBC was established under a strategic partnership between NBC and Microsoft. NBC executive Tom Rogers, blah blah blah, something. Who cares? But
There you
yeah,
go.
so I said it. I didn't make that up. We established that that was true. Both contested statements or concerned statements have been true so far today. I'd say saying that Tucker Carlson's father is a CIA operative is not, I would say that's not true. Like if we were Snopes, we would say like, I don't know if they say like partially true, partially not true. It's kind of like a little gray area where that really lies.
You remember when Trump said that Ted Cruz's father killed JFK? I think he said he alluded to that. I don't know if he said it outright.
Well, it's so I'm sorry that I offended you about Tucker Carlson. I feel like I feel like you're more of a Tucker fan than I am. I
Oh
know
no, listen. I'm no Tucker fanboy. I am skeptical of. I mean,
everyone,
yeah. If
as you should be.
you're part of that corporate media machine and that's who you're getting your paycheck from, I'm automatically at least a little bit skeptical of you. And that's why I brought up the question, like, is he a sort of controlled opposition? But I go back to, and maybe this is just me being a little naive, I'm saying no simply because of how far he pushes it. I mean, people, Tucker Carlson has been red pilling people. I mean,
Yeah,
corporate
that's
media
true.
people, they usually don't give them enough ammunition to really red pill somebody and give them a different view, shall we say, of the American Western machine. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I do agree with you. I do agree that like he could just get up there and not necessarily say so much, reveal so much. Um, and like I said to my original statement before about him is that yeah, when Kevin McCarthy released that footage to just his show, they should have released it to the entire media and then everybody could have reviewed those tapes and decided what they wanted to show and edited certain ways and showed it. So yeah, I don't necessarily, I'm not trashing, um, I'm not trashing Tucker
You
Carlson.
hate
I'm
him.
not
Just say
saying,
it.
yes, I
I
do.
want to
I
hear
do.
you say it.
I don't trust
'Cause-
him. I don't trust Tucker Carlson. I'm ready to get him. No, I'm just like one of those people that's my brain is exploding from all of the conspiracy. So I'm always like on edge. Like, can he be trusted? But one thing I do like about Tucker Carlson, and you mentioned him fly fishing. I
Yeah.
remember listening to an interview with him, which is very weird that I even listened to an interview with him. I have no idea how this took place. Um, but Tucker was at some kind of weird Fox News convention, like in Florida. Like I don't. Maybe I was in the hospital. That's the only reason I feel like I would have watched this.
That's most likely. You
Yeah. I
have
was
spent
probably
most
like
of your
bored out
adult
of my
life
mind. Yes,
in a hospital bed.
on vacation or in a hospital. Yeah. So I'm watching this interview with Tucker Carlson, and they were asking him about like social media or something like that, and he's like, oh, I don't really pay attention to any of that. He's like, I don't really look at any of that. I don't really look at like the comments. He's like, I'm not really involved. He was like, I kind of just like to read books and like unwind. And I did actually really appreciate that he said that, because I happen to know someone pretty well that works in like the same capacity as Tucker. And this said individual, like a lot of these people are consumed with what people have to say on Twitter, what they have to say. I think Joe Rogan's talked about this a lot too. That he like had to get to a point where he just doesn't even really look at the comments. He doesn't get too involved. That can go one way or the other, but I thought it was really refreshing when I heard Tucker say that, because I kind of took it as my own, something for myself, that I was like, well, if he's really being honest about that, like you said, he was fly fishing. He says that he likes to just read, maybe spend time with his family. I thought that was really, really nice that he said that, because I feel like it's really hard for people to just turn off and do those things. But if that truly is who Tucker is behind closed doors, And even if he's controlled opposition by the CIA, I appreciate that he's got, his priorities in check. I truly mean that. Even if he's, starting wars in some kind of foreign country or something, or about to control us. I just think it's nice that he's, I just enjoyed that he said that that's what he does, because I think a lot of people in his position, they are just, they're just all about being relevant. Like that's their currency. It's not even, they don't even care about money. They just care about ratings. So like when you saw like Hannity was the top dog at Fox, and now Tucker and even Jesse Waters have surpassed his ratings. And I noticed for a little while, my husband would watch them, and I just would too, but I was like, we need to stop. I noticed that Hannity at some point, as Tucker rose, stopped giving him a send off, like a little, they usually hand off the show, and Hannity stopped doing it. And just having been kind of like inside the media, I know how competitive these people are with each other. I know like they do not consider themselves on the same team. I don't know. I think we all like to think that Tucker is genuine, and I want to believe that. But I definitely know for like 90% of the people you see, hear, and consume, the talent, they are so self-involved. Their currency is being relevant, is how many followers they have. They are consumed by it, and they sometimes could literally care less about the issues. It's all about the ratings. It's all about the numbers. It's all about how popular they are. So I just hope, I think what I'm saying is I'm afraid to put my trust into anybody, having seen some of the other side, is what I'm trying to say about Tucker.
Do
Not
you
that I'm
think
not
that
okay.
to be in that world, do you think on some level you have to be a bit of a
Narcissist.
narcissist? Because even us doing this humble
Yeah,
little re-education camp video podcast, I mean, on a certain level there's like an element of narcissism that goes into
absolutely.
putting yourself out there and
Yeah.
watching yourself back and being, oh, that was a good point, so on a certain level they all have to be a little bit narcissistic.
No, absolutely. I would say, I mean, I am actually just watching you on the screen instead of myself, which I guess that makes me a little bit lower of a narcissist instead of just watching myself the entire time. Because I want to have a conversation with you, not just promoting myself. But yes, definitely. I mean, I would consider myself benign narcissist. Like, I'll just come out and say that. Like if I want to get on a microphone and talk and have people hear my thoughts and think that other people might want to listen to that, yeah, I've got to be some level of narcissist. There's covert narcissists. I think you take somebody like Obama. I feel like he's a little bit of a covert. Let's be real too. If you're running for president, you're probably a narcissist too. You think you should be the leader of the free world? Yeah, you got a little bit of tinge of narcissism. I think there could be a healthy bit of narcissism. Like
I think that
there's a
I would
healthy,
be
yeah.
an excellent benevolent dictator, honestly, because I feel like I know what's best for
That's for
most people. Kind of like Daenerys Targaryen there at the end of Game of Thrones. She said, "Well, they don't get to decide. We get to decide what's best." So I've got a little bit of that in me. But no, in all seriousness, though, I do I follow what you're saying with. That it's possible to have, shall we say, like a splash of healthy uh narcissism, if that is even such a thing.
Yeah, I think well, I think the term narcissism gets thrown around so much too. It's just become like a catch-all for people. Having I know someone that is a textbook narcissist, and I can say for certainty, like I see what that really means, and it can be really, really nasty and scary and just and honestly not, I hate to say scary, it can be really pathetic. It can be really sad at the
It's
same
not
time too,
endearing.
because a narcissist at the beginning, when they're rising or they're waxing, is they're good at what they do. They're good at making people endear to them. But eventually there comes a time where a narcissist is going to wane, and it's called a collapsing narcissist. And that's when there's really no supply they're getting, the same old tricks or the same old thing. People have had enough of them. They basically have had a poor attitude, poor behavior, and people are putting them on a long, they're putting them aside. And that narcissist, like I said, the collapsing narcissist, they begin to lash out like crazy because they're starting to see it. And really, like what I said, I think narcissism is an overused term because I think most of us want the best for ourselves, right? Like we want
You
to
should if you
yeah,
don't.
like yeah, like we even if you want to commit suicide and you say you hate yourself, well, you're like, oh, I hate myself because I'm this, because I'm that. It's like, well, ultimately, you actually love yourself because you want yourself to be good looking. You want yourself to be thin. Like you do, there's a part of you that loves yourself because you want all good things for yourself.
Don't be
And
fat
you
phobic,
just,
Karen.
yeah. Yeah, let me
Because we
back
all
that
know
up.
that healthy
Big is
bodies come in
beautiful.
all
BB,
sizes.
BBGs. But but I'm just saying that I know, I'm sorry, that was so fat phobic of me. I'll do penance somehow.
You
I
just
don't know
watch
how.
yourself.
Yeah, just one.
That's all I ask. We're trying. This is a very
But
inclusive, equitable, family-friendly
yes.
podcast we're trying to do here.
Yeah, I guess I'm gonna have to get a flogging later for that. But like I said, ultimately I think you want good things for yourself and you want I think most people try to have they want themselves, at least, even if they have low self-esteem or anything, they want to think good things or they want to be good things about themselves. So I do think that there's like a heavy, not a heavy, but there's a healthy level of narcissism that you can have or at least take. But that said, narcissism can look really, really ugly. And I think that the as I was saying about the collapsing narcissist, what you see is ultimately the person that really suffers from the narcissism is the narcissist. We look at Donald Trump. I mean, he cannot get over Ron DeSantis getting any popularity. And what does he do? He continues to attack Ron DeSantis instead of recognizing that I'm Donald Trump. I've already been the president. I was the leader of the free world. A lot of people like me. He's very insecure and threatened by any anyone, absolutely anyone who challenges him. And in doing so, he ultimately is the person that pays the price for that and doesn't get to live the fullest version of himself. And also too, he doesn't do you need to do work on yourself and be self-aware and grow. Like a narcissist is not a lost cause. But it's hard for us. It's hard as humans to sit back and really have that self-awareness and work on our ego, unless you're on shrooms. But
I
you know
think that, well, speaking of shrooms, I think that Donald could really benefit from maybe taking like at least a micro dose of psilocybin. Well, no, he probably needs to go on a trip to really shed that ego, because that's one of the main criticisms about Trump, even by some of his most ardent supporters, is that there is this inherent refusal, this pigheadedness, where he will not admit any sort of shortcoming, any kind of oops, I was wrong about that. Like you'll never
mhm.
hear him admit that he was wrong. And that is one of the big critiques that I have of him, is that he's still out there, shall we say, shilling for big pharma. You should take it, it's the best, I brought it to you. Like the jury's kind of out now that maybe it wasn't
Yeah,
the
we've
best.
moved on. We're not into that anymore. Yeah.
Right. So that's kind of very disturbing in a sense, a person who
Yeah, and
cannot.
that could make or break his bid for presidency because he's not willing to say, "Hey, they forced this on me. We thought this was going to work." No, he digs his heels in and he might ultimately pay the price for his ego. And yeah, I think with Trump, I remember there being a time when he attacked Minka Brzezinski, who was on Morning Joe. I think it's Morning Joe's wife now, Joe Scarborough's wife. And he was the president. He was president of the United States, and he took time out of his day to attack Mika Brzezinski about her. He like said something about how she like cut up her face with plastic surgery or something like that, or something to that effect. And I just thought, like, you're the leader, you're the president. You are the president. You've made it. This woman will be forgotten. She's not in the history books. She's nobody important. But God forbid she said one little thing about him and he had to go on a tirade. So I think it's things like that that really, really, you see that narcissism just on full display.
He's very Costanza-like in a way, because it's almost like that episode of Seinfeld where George was dating this girl. The girl saw him in the diner, beautiful woman, said that he looked just like her boyfriend. And George couldn't believe it. How does this guy look like me? So eventually George started dating this girl, but he's still obsessed with the boyfriend that she's not even seeing anymore. Like, how did this guy get her? Meanwhile, he already has her. So it's sort of like a Costanza complex that he's got going on there, where he just can't, like, yeah, you've elevated yourself way past them now. Why are you even thinking about these people?
Yeah,
this is
like
beneath
a lion
you.
Does not consider what is it, the thoughts of an ant or something like that. Yeah, like, come on, move on. The sheep. Oh, I kind of don't like that comment but I guess lions eat sheep though. But it feels like it means it feels. I hope that
I don't think they care about the ants either.
Yeah, I hope that the lion considers the thoughts of the fellow lions. But then again, do the world leaders consider themselves lions and us sheep, so they don't consider our thoughts?
Let's be honest, most of them don't really consider our thoughts. This is all just a big Game of Thrones for them. And it goes back to what I was saying at the beginning of this podcast, where these people, they are not public servants. 99.9% of them are not public servants.
I'm starting to believe that some of them believe they're a different species. Like, I think that they think we're Homo sapiens and they're like Homo superiors.
Didn't John Kerry basically say something to that effect at Davos? When he said they're aliens.
He was like, we get to decide the future. That's what he said. Isn't this so exciting that we get to decide the future? I'm like, who's we? You?
Yeah, he said it's almost extraterrestrial.
It's almost extraterrestrial. Yeah, you're right. Thank you. I did forget that he said almost extraterrestrial. Yeah. So I kind of think that they think that's what I think we're going to call it that. I like that. As long as you do too. Homo superius.
Yeah, that's
Homo sapiens. Homo superius.
That would be John Kerry and company. But
yeah, what's that guy's name? Klaus Schwab, walking around with his so there you go.
Good old Uncle
Homo
Klaus.
superius. Yeah, so we're just little peons, little plebeians in their extraterrestrial cause.
One thing I will say, to tie a little bow on the Trump DeSantis conversation we were having, I think that a lot of people are starting to realize young Ronald's past, of him coming out and saying that the person who he idolizes the most is George H.W. Bush, Mr. New World Order himself.
Yeah.
And it was revealed, I can't remember what show this was on Fox News, but essentially word got out that Karl Rove and the Bushes are basically running Ron DeSantis's bid for the presidency. If you've got Jeb smiling behind you and you've got characters like Karl Rove, and I'm sorry, that's a big, for a lot of us, that's a bit of a buzzkill. That's a no-go.
Yeah, it's a new day has dawned, and people, they're moving on from all that. But I think we've done an excellent first episode, because we're both narcissists, so we have to give ourselves a little pat on the back and tell us how wonderful we are.
Well, listen, this is a fun little pilot episode, and
this was fun.
If you've made it to the end of this, obviously you have realized by now that you're not going to be coming here to get concrete information, accurate concrete information about the goings on of the
Yeah.
world. You're coming here to hear our thoughts on politics and world events and culture and just life in general.
Yeah, we want to keep
As
you company. Want to keep you company and have you be part of the re-education camp.
Yeah, that's really the theme here. That is where we are all headed at the end of the day here. So I just kind of want to have a little bit of fun, before the music ends, and I'm either drafted to the Ukraine or perhaps Taiwan, or sent to the camps. I hope I get it. I hope they give me a choice. You think
Yeah.
I'll get a choice? Maybe like you can. Well, we're taking you to the Gulag, or you can be deployed to Taiwan. I'd probably go fight, I
Good
guess.
choice.
Anyway, I digress. I didn't mean to go off on that. We'll probably touch more upon the impending or ongoing World War III in following episodes. But in all sincerity, if you've made it to the end here, I hope that you enjoyed our musings and our ramblings. Hit the old subscribe button there, and we'll be coming back next week to talk more.
All right. See you in the camp.
See you later.